I want to welcome you to another episode of the Ask a Pastor podcast. Today we're joined by a special guest, Amy Russell. She's a licensed psychologist and she works with let me get this name right, the Center for Christian Therapy. And she's here today to talk to us about anxiety. Her practice focuses on families, couples, children, and teens. And so we're going to be talking about anxiety and ways to respond. So, Amy, maybe it'd be helpful if you would begin just kind of introducing yourself and sharing with us a little bit about your training and your practice.
Mhm. Okay, so I have been with the Center for Christian Therapy since 2008. And um, I also am a school psychologist. So I worked in the school district for 14 years and so had some really good um, training opportunities there, working with children and families. And I did my initial training before I got my doctorate at primary children's. Um, so I've been in um, working with kids and families for a lot of years and enjoy it. Thankful to get to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. So, could you maybe define anxiety in a sentence or two for us, and then maybe highlight any differences in the way anxiety presents itself in adults versus children and teenagers?
Okay, so there's sort of a difference between we all feel some anxiety. And I think we're created that way so that we're aware of when we're in danger in our bodies. I think when anxiety kind of becomes problematic is when it's not just like I feel a little bit nervous meeting these new people, but not only do I feel nervous, but I'm not sure that I can function, kind of like not sure I can enter the building to see these new people. That kind of thing. With children versus adults, um, adults sometimes are a little bit more aware of what's going on and what their thoughts are doing and I think part of anxiety is, um, for adults especially, you know that you're overreacting a bit or that your feelings and your body responses are like more than they should be for a situation. And you can kind of name it. With children, I'm not sure they are quite as aware when they have feelings of anxiety. And so often with children, it will present with some misbehaviors or maybe some anger. Certainly, avoidance is kind of a an obvious response. Um, to not want to go into a classroom or not want to go into a church service or not want to um, go into a gathering of other kids, that kind of thing.
So maybe there's a sense in which the kids don't have the self-awareness that we do as adults, and so they're overwhelmed because they're
Mhm.
processing new emotions maybe and experiences. So it's kind
Mhm.
of like a cascading effect that leaves them almost paralyzed. Is that maybe a good way to think about it?
Yeah, I think paralyzed is a good way to think about it for sure. Or like distracting, like I have a some clients who like get the wiggles when they want to avoid a topic, and so they're um maybe running all over the room or like it looks more like hyperactivity, for example.
So it's
Um,
not always the same in every case. So are there some typical signs and symptoms of anxiety in children that parents could be like, oh, okay, now I need to start really paying attention?
mhm. Yeah, I think sometimes, well, that too can vary depending on the child, but I think often it's an avoidance, often there's um, like a clinging perhaps to mom and dad. Um, let me think about this as far as just like common symptoms, would be sometimes crying, sometimes just feeling some physical symptoms like lots of kids will complain of stomach irritation or headaches. Um, some kids with anxiety break out in rashes. And so sometimes our body will sort of tell us that something's going on. Um, and so the parent is probably our best observer in terms of this is not typical for this kiddo or it's heightened right now.
It's kind of like almost all human relations. There's an element of being a good listener, being empathetic, trying to put yourself in your child's shoes to understand maybe how they're seeing things and feeling things, and
Mhm.
then making assessments because certain behaviors might be like an overreaction to a situation, and then others in a different context might be entirely appropriate. So,
Right,
okay,
right, right. Like it's appropriate if a predator is chasing you to
right,
run.
right.
Hopefully none of us have that experience on the regular, um, but not so much, a classroom of kindergartners.
Right.
They're probably not going to cause bodily harm. So,
I think that's helpful to you. Mentioned this earlier, but I kind of want to come back to it. There is anxiety that is healthy. I think a lot of times we hear this word, oh, they're anxious or they're dealing with anxiety, and we just immediately assume a negative connotation. But there are times when anxiety is this wonderful gift that God has given us so that we can, as embodied beings, navigate this world that does have potential threats and challenges in a way that's wise and helpful. So it's not always anxiety is a bad thing. So I just want to be real
right,
clear and
right,
stress that we all experience it and it's natural and normal.
right, right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think, yeah, we're wired to sense danger or discomfort. Um, and that's not a bad thing. Absolutely.
And it's interesting too that it's more than just mental and emotional. You mentioned kids complaining of stomach aches or even breaking out in rashes. So there's this comprehensive experience of anxiety that affects all aspects of our being, and it's physiological as much as it is emotional and psychological and spiritual, I guess.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we need to be in tune with our own experiences, but also as parents, kind of looking out for all of these different areas where it might be manifesting itself.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Over the years, have you seen maybe common triggers or causes in anxiety in children? And with the rise of social media and kind of a more digital and technological age, has that changed in your experience?
Um, yeah, I think so. I would probably separate like younger elementary age children versus teenagers. Um, as far as like how it how it manifests. I would say that with teenagers, I think social media has been definitely plays a part for people, like the feeling left out or feeling kids are bolder online than they are in person. And so I think there's certainly some bullying kinds of risks um, when you're just like typing on your keyboard on your phone, you're going to be more bold. And unfortunately, some kids are more mean in that way. Most of the elementary kids that I work with aren't really exposed that much to social media. Um, but it depends. It depends on the family. Um, and so you were asking if I saw like a rise in anxiety with social media, um, or in our current day where we're so much on screens. Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
What
I
role
think
has digital life contributed, or and then that's in some ways it sounds like I'm assuming that it's negative. It could there are maybe have some positive things as well. So
I mean, I think there's definitely situations where people who have trouble connecting connect first online with people and feel more comfortable that way. Um, but also, um, there's not that much risk um, connecting online. And so, I think I used to say, and this was like early, like before all the different apps and stuff, but I remember in the 90s when like people would meet in like chat rooms and things like that. Like I remember thinking like some people probably wouldn't have met spouses or partners other in another way. It kind of gave them some courage that they might not have otherwise had. And so in that way, it could be positive. There's probably for a lot of people, it's been positive. But certainly I think every one of us as parents worries about the impact that our phones and devices and our, connecting online has on our families and our kiddos.
I think it's interesting. It's really easy to assume kids are on their phones and on their devices far more than we are as adults because we
Mhm.
lack the self-awareness to realize exactly how tethered we are, to our iPads and to our iPhones and, Android devices.
Mhm.
So I think the sense that all of us probably could benefit by more intentional person-to-person contact with those closest to us, our immediate family, putting the phone
Mhm.
down and giving attention and focus is an area where, I know it's almost a 50-year-old man. It's not always the easiest thing for me to do, and
Mhm.
I know that it makes a big difference for someone, especially someone maybe who's dealing with anxiety, to feel heard and to feel validated in the things they're feeling and
Mhm.
cared for that way. So a
Absolutely.
good thing for all of us to think about how we're relating and engaging with the people that are around us immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think taking breaks from it, like you were saying, leaving it, shutting it down, leaving it for hours at a time can be really renewing and refreshing. And oh, I just had a clear thought on my
Right.
own without my screen, kind of.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know the kids who are like in fifth, sixth grade, younger kids, were infants and toddlers when COVID happened. And kids who are in high school were probably like in those formative early elementary ages. Have you seen long-term effects of COVID on kids that are just now maybe being recognized as they're dealing with issues that they experienced at COVID, but maybe haven't processed up to this
Mhm.
particular point.
Yeah. I would say so. I work with a lot of people on the autism spectrum, and that comes with um, anxiety typically. And so I had some really isolated kiddos already that I was working with. And so it didn't change much for them. But for kids that it was like their first experience doing class online, that kind of thing. Um, for some of them, it was devastating. And so they were so happy to get back in the classroom. Um, and then for some, I've seen probably more students than ever continue online. It was just like a good option for them. And so their families decided to continue to do school online. And so I think just having a sensitivity to the needs of different families. Um, we're pretty good at providing services online. I mean, you and I are having a
Yeah.
conversation online right now. And so in that way, but it does concern me with some kids like feeling like they're too isolated for sure. Because I value the face-to-face in-person time.
Yeah. I know we made different decisions with our kids. Our daughter was in her junior and then her senior year followed after COVID. Our son was a couple years behind her, and that whole experience gave us the freedom as parents to look at each child and say, "Hey, this is what's best for you, and
Hmm.
this decision is going to be best for you." And so our son finished his last couple of years online
Hmm.
exclusively.
Hmm.
That worked out much better for him, and
Hmm.
so, parents really do play a significant role in supporting their child with anxiety. So, are there any strategies if that you could provide that if parents see something maybe in their son or daughter that you could say, "Hey, start here. Here's some helpful exercises or practices to put into place when you start to see behavior, maybe that you're not sure if it's anxiety of a level that requires a professional to meet with. But as a parent, these are just things that are going to be beneficial for your whole family um,
Hmm.
to engage with."
Yeah. Um, I'm a very attachment focused therapist. And so um, I would just encourage just leaning into that relationship a whole lot, like spending time together and just trying to understand. But I also think that can be a good indicator if you're not connecting with your child the way you used to, and they're more resistant. That might be a good time to kind of go, maybe we should seek some professional help. Um, because sometimes, and that doesn't mean that the professional is going to like automatically connect with the child, but the professional is going to sort of understand what's going on and also be able to be objective. Kids might be afraid of the impact that their behavior is having on their parent, and so they may not talk to them at first. But I think I see a lot of benefit from parents just sort of walking alongside their kiddo and just going, we're doing this together. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna figure out how to help you manage school or youth group or um, whatever the situation is. Um, and I think a lot of the work that I do, I teach the parents some of the same strategies. So they're like working on them together as a family. So that helps too.
I think just that idea of what you said is the committing and communicating to your child,
Hmm.
"I'm with you.
Hmm.
You're not in
Hmm.
this alone. We're going to
Hmm.
go through this together, and I'm not going anywhere." Just that could be really helpful. And you're still scared, you're still anxious about things, but just knowing that you're not in this by yourself could be really, really significant for a
Hmm.
child to know and to be confident of mom and dad. That they're with me in this.
Right. And we freak out too, right? Like
Absolutely.
I just talked to my college daughter today and she's having trouble. She's in Bosnia, so she's far away. And I felt anxious, because she's feeling a little homesick and it's like hard to do everything and she had an injury to her knee and it's gotten worse because they walk so much and I'm freaking out. Like so so I'm trying to just like be encouraging and like you've got this instead of freaking out myself. Like she's across the world. So,
Interesting. It doesn't change as your kids get older. Your role shifts slightly, but
mhm.
all of the same kind of things we're experiencing and trying to help encourage them experience are still the same.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
What about a child? What are some things that a child who's experiencing anxiety, maybe to the level of like they're making decisions not to engage in certain activities they used to? Are there coping mechanisms? Are there strategies, exercises that they can do that might be helpful if they know they're going into a situation where they've experienced this kind of anxiety before? That they can say, "Okay, this is this is an exercise I'm going to do beforehand to get me over the hump and back in the game.
Right, right. Um, yeah, absolutely. I often will like teach deep breathing. I'll teach something I learned in um a strategy I learned was just like to kind of smell your soup, like put a bowl of soup in front of you and then blow on the soup, just kind of being able to do those kind of things, having a plan, having an escape plan, having a I can call mom, I can call the school counselor, that kind of thing. Um, and that I think with general anxiety really works really well to sort of help kiddos talk through it. Sometimes kids will have a more severe anxiety disorder, like a obsessive compulsive disorder, and it is really hard for them to slow their thoughts or to slow their body. And so in that case, often we will, recommend therapy and also possibly consultation for medication in terms of like kind of helping with those anxiety, those obsessive kinds of thoughts. The other thing that's helpful for kiddos who are believers is thinking about um, scripture that might help them. There's so much in scripture, I will never leave you, I will never forsake you, I'm at your right hand because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Lots of things like that. And I have asked kiddos to kind of think about that. And I had a young um, teen once who had really severe obsessive thoughts. And she, on pondering, like if there was a scripture, she went to when Jesus says in John, I don't know what chapter, nothing can snatch them from my hand, like how he kind of talks about his people. Um, Nothing can snatch you from my hand. Just that was something that she would hold on to. And so, um, not to like say there's like an easy fix necessarily, because you want to really honor for a kiddo how hard it is, but for them to have a few things that are helpful. I have a lot of kids who use fidget toys or they have something in their pocket that they can sort of like, there's actually something called the worry rock that they can just sort of like manipulate with their fingers, and that's helpful. So those kinds of things.
You mentioned obsessive compulsive behaviors. Is that
Mhm.
maybe a coping mechanism where the world feels chaotic and scary and out of control? But there's this one detail, and I'm not exactly certain how obsessive compulsive behaviors are classified, but let's just say it's making sure the door is locked to my bedroom so no one can come in. Is it this is the one thing that I have total control over, and so I can exercise that control over and over again to make myself at least have the illusion of some kind of safety and security. Is that what's going
Yeah.
on?
I think there is an element of that. I think it's not conscious with really severe OCD. I think it's like I I think there's something going on in that child's brain that is not quite as functional as it could be.
Okay.
But I do think you're right. I think that there's a semblance of if I don't do this, something's going to happen. And so doing this calms my whole system. And so, I mean, it sort of depends on the client, depends on the child, or teenager or adult, um, in terms of what's going on. But I think it's a good way of kind of conceptualizing that maybe it is something that's adaptable. Like I'm freaking out internally and doing my rituals or my compulsions sort of helps me calm down. I think I think when it's really severe, it just impairs functioning and like people have a hard time doing school or doing work or having regular um whatever regular, whatever normal is,
Right.
but interactions with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe could you touch on the helping parents think through what normal anxiety is, and the kind of the behavior responses that would look like, and then that disordered level of anxiety where now you have responded in a way that's like outweighs the potential threat or situation that you're facing, and then the decision about, okay, now we need to seek professional help, now we need
Mhm.
to reach out to someone because this is reached a level that is gone beyond kind of like just normal human anxiety.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I think just sort of normalizing with your kids, like, of course you're anxious about this event, or of course you're anxious to go into this new classroom or meet these new people. That's normal. Um, uh, Things that we all experience. But when there's some behaviors that kind of like there's like a severe avoidance, or sometimes kiddos will do some self-harm, like um, sometimes there's like some hair pulling or some nail biting or things that kind of harm them physically. Um, I think it's like that you might need to seek professional help when it's the intensity is bigger, and your child too, so like this kiddo is not acting like he usually does, right? Um, and so sort of trusting that parent um, wisdom, if you will, for years of knowing your child. I'm trying to think what else would be. So I think if there's like some sort of physical harm element, or like if they're getting themselves so worked up that there's just like a persistent, like they're not eating or they're not sleeping, or like some persistent interruption of normal bodily functions, the things we need to do to eat and to drink, if they're having trouble with hygiene, those kinds of things. Those are times where you're kind of like, I think we need some help here as parents helping this kiddo.
So maybe kind of a safe rule is like if you're unsure, maybe that's a good time to ask for
Mhm.
somebody to come in and help you just see things, because it's often really hard for us to see our families uh, objectively because we're
Yes.
so enmeshed in all of these relationships and things, and so having an independent kind of observer might see things that you're not, and to help you kind of process it as a parent, but it also might be helpful for your kid to process it as well.
Right. And you've probably come to like accommodate a lot of these things at home, but you also want your child to be able to function at school and in social situations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe could you help us understand the Center for Christian Therapy's approach and what biblical-based counseling looks like and how it would fall in line with all of the other things that would be needed to help somebody who's dealing with anxiety?
Mhm. So we're all licensed as clinicians here. There's 8 therapists here. Um, and I think our training is secular. I have a doctorate in psychology. Um, but my worldview is biblical. And so I definitely look at people as precious to God and value their relationship with their creator. Um, we also serve a lot of unbelievers as well, and people from different faith backgrounds. But I would say that um, what maybe we can offer that others like, you know, that are more in a more secular setting where they don't talk about the Lord is just um, leaning into a child and a family's faith as they're dealing with things. like I said, like thinking of scriptures that will help, praying with them, um, just helping them know that they're not alone, that God's got them, that He is on this path with them. Um, and just thinking through times when kids or their parents are angry at God because this is really, really hard. And why do I have to be this way? Just being able to not necessarily fix that, but to come alongside them and say that makes sense and God can handle your anger, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I think that we provide services like any other counseling center, except that we are solid in our, I say to say I'm solid in my faith, but um, we wouldn't do this or we value the work of the Holy Spirit and we value our foundation in our relationship with Christ.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for joining
Mhm.
us and being a
Yeah,
part of the Ask a Pastor podcast.
yeah.
I want to encourage anybody if you're unsure, you can reach out to Amy and the other counselors at the Center for Christian Therapy, and you can find them on their website. It's centerforchristiantherapy.com.
Mhm.
And I just want to encourage people like this is not the scarlet letter. Um,
Mhm.
and all of us are going to experience anxiety.
Mhm.
In some seasons of our lives, we experience it more intensely. Some people, this is seems to be a theme that runs the entire duration of their life, and that's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
You are not in this alone. Your church is there to love you and support you and care for you. There are counselors who want to be able to provide help as well, and especially for parents. Like I could imagine a pretty strong sense of guilt or shame,
Mhm.
maybe feelings of failing their child, and not being able to do anything about it leaves you feeling really vulnerable and helpless. All of us as parents experience that to some degree or another, and so just know this is life in a world that's been affected by sin, and we're
Mhm.
all doing our very best to get through this, and it's not a bad thing to reach out for help. Um, you have any final thoughts for us, Amy, as we wrap this episode of Ask a Pastor up?
No, just echoing what you said. I think, yeah, definitely let's not pathologize our struggles. This is just, we're going through life together and we're trying to figure it out. And some of us have more of a need more help than others at certain times.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your time. It's been excellent hearing from you and having you join us on the Ask a Pastor podcast. Have a
Mhm.
great day.